So, green joy. As soon as you hear my title, you wouldn't be that excited. And I know, because you wouldn't really be excited listening to a speech about sustainability again, because we activists have been relentlessly emphasizing, and again emphasizing the importance of preserving the Earth, the massive destruction that the Earth is going through, and the scary future that we will face if we do not act for sustainability right now. But don't you see this very scary? Yeah, until now, all these approaches to sustainability were quite intimidating. But today, I will take a very different approach, because I believe sustainability is all about being happy. So I would say this: to be happy, think green and think sustainable. Or in other words, I could even say, the definition of sustainability is meeting our own present needs without compromising the needs of our future generations. But the real definition, I say, is happiness. Or to be more insane, I could even say, do urban farming to be happy. By now, you would think that I'm ridiculous, or maybe even very crazy. But just follow me along, because it's now the time to introduce my very personal story. Me and urban farming, how we met together. So, it was 9 years ago at Children's Day. Our family headed to our grandparents' house, located in a very quiet and serene town, surrounded by mountains and hills and small streams. Instead of skyscrapers, it was green trees and plants that welcomed me. Instead of relentless sounds of engines, it was breezes and chirps of birds that welcomed me. Instead of gray cement floor that I always stepped on, it was green grass. I was just totally immersed by that greeny mood of the town. And my grandma took me to her vegetable garden, and as soon as I sat down to harvest some potatoes, the earthy and refreshing smell of the soil tickled my nose. And until now, I can't forget that, because all the positive feelings, including that moment, has just stuck in my head and never left me. After that day, going to our grandparents' house became something like an annual event on special days like my birthdays. It was the same routine every day. There wasn't anything special. Going to that place, being immersed, having fun, harvesting, eating them, and just coming back home again. But it was just happy. But as I entered middle school, and as I prioritized academics over finding my happiness, I couldn't really visit my grandparents' house. And one day, I went up to the top story of Seoul's sky, which let me look down the entire city. The view was absolutely breathtaking. Between all the tall buildings and apartments, it was Han River. And between all the buildings and river, cars moved fast along the roads. The city was very busy, but it was empty in some place, because there were nearly any greens, and I saw the city as very lonely and desolate. At one point, all the gray buildings laid down along the roads seemed so lonely, and in my head, that changed all to green stuff. In my mind, seeing those buildings, the gray cement roofs changed to green plants and trees, the sky covered with fine dust changed with the sky covered with a blue blanket, and the charming spectacle of the convergence of nature and city, drawn in my head, created an illusion-like, marvelous harmony. And after about a year, I encountered a YouTube video that blew my mind. The thumbnail of the video was something like this. There were trees all over the buildings, and trees also on the rooftops. And later, I realized that this was actually an urban agriculture technique called green roofs and green buildings. It was the moment of realization that my mind that I just drawn in my head, my imagination, came to real life. If farming in my grandparents' house made me feel happy and evoked the nostalgia of my childhood memories, knowing the existence of urban farming just made me even happier. Now, my personal story has ended. And now it's your turn. You and urban farming. How urban farming will make you happy. The World Economic Forum states that cleaner, engaging public spaces and policies offers the best chances for residents to become and remain healthier and happier. And surprisingly, these are all what urban farming, like these multiple-story structures, green roofs on tops of the buildings, and community gardens grants us. So let's take a look at how, actually. The first effect is cooling, the urban heat island effect. Cities suffer from excessively high temperatures during the summer and daytime because of the buildings that use so much electricity and are just empty and gray. Such phenomenon is called the urban heat island effect, where urban areas suffer from higher temperatures than in rural areas. This graph evidently shows that warehouse or industrial sites and downtown areas have much higher temperatures than in rural areas. Right now, you audience would say that, hey, this is none of my business, because you haven't really been sick because of this. But in reality, it may in a few years. Urban heat island effect increases the energy bill for air conditioning, elevates greenhouse gas contaminations, and may pose serious health risk on our human body. However, only increasing 10% of green spaces in cities make a decrease in the temperature by 4 degrees Celsius, which is very effective. And quite surprisingly again, one study reveals that vegetated roofs were 30 degrees Celsius, while unvegetated roofs were 70 degrees Celsius. Don't you see the statistics quite insane? Thus, cooled urban areas will reduce the demands for air conditioning, eventually reducing emissions for greenhouse gases, and offer healthier environments for us to live in. And the second effect of urban farming is cleaner air. As we all know, cities suffer from notoriously poor air quality. And I do not really need scary statistics to prove this, because every time I go back to Seoul for breaks, I experience this. Even though I walk a few minutes, my eyes get itchy and dry. And the blue sky just becomes gray, making my hobby of taking photos totally useless. By number, the air quality is even more shocking. Carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, sulfur oxide, nitrogen dioxide, all these harmful chemicals are at highly dangerous levels. In fact, nitrogen dioxide are 10 to 100 times much more higher than in urban areas. So, how do we solve this problem? The very conventional methods were maybe using renewable energy sources, reducing waste, etc., etc., etc. In fact, I would say that urban agriculture can be an effective solution. As soon as you plant trees on buildings' rooftops, which were just gray, it will be transformed to places that are green and happy. Leaf surfaces on the vegetation roof will act as natural sink for common contaminants of chemicals, resulting in significant ozone and air pollutant mitigation benefits. In Singapore, actually, a 4,000 meters squared rooftop decreased levels of acidic gases chemicals by 37% and particulate matters by 6%. And lastly, the last effect is creating engaging public spaces. Beside all these scientific facts about urban agriculture, converting underutilized spaces into public forums of interactions, such as community gardens, would not only encourage the community to be more strongly bonded, but also the neighborhood to be more resilient and sustainable. Increased residents participating in community garden activities would overall increase the aesthetics, environment, town area, town safety, and have much more benefits that I cannot lay down right here. And as such, urban agriculture sites that target underutilized spaces around the city would improve air quality, mitigate the urban heat island effects, and just foster a public community for us, which would be all contributing to our happiness as urban dwellers. Do you remember that I said, do urban farming to be happy at the start of the speech? You said it was all crazy and ridiculous. By now, I hope that this statement does not seem crazy, but rather brilliant. And this is my last word today. I would say this. This third tier is just dirt. But for us, I believe its potential. Thank you.